Carpe's Corner, so happy that you're here. So take a seat, have a tea, or grab yourself a beer. Here at Carpe's Corner, we'll learn about our lives. And in between, you might decide to exercise your rights. It's Carpe's Corner. Carpe's Corner. Welcome to Carpe's Corner. Don't forget reviews. Comment, like, and subscribe is all you gotta do. Here at Carpe's Corner, please appreciate our guests. And just remember, everyone's got something on their chest. In Carpe's Corner. Carpe's Corner. In Carpe's Corner, there'll be no borders. It's Carpe's Corner. We're so glad that you are here.
Yes. Hello. Welcome to Carpe's Corner today. My guest is Milo. So let's get him going in there, and we'll jump right into it.
After
Milo.
all that build up, after all of that drama, then there's a countdown, then there's a second title sequence, then suddenly, this is Carpe's Corner,
it's
my
me.
guest. What is the matter with you? After all that build up, like, good evening. My name is CarpeDonktum. And I was like, what is wrong with you?
All right,
Anyway, listen.
let's start
It's
over
not about-
then.
it's-
Let's
no,
start
it's
over.
fine because it's not about you. It's about me. And I just want people to know the extraordinary sacrifice that I'm going to this evening. I want
Yes.
people to understand what I'm doing for you tonight. Now, some time ago, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
We had a little fumble, didn't we? Not the enjoyable fumble that you get in.
Well,
public
I
school.
didn't.
Well, no, I didn't have a. Please let me finish my metaphor. We had an unfortunate hiccup, and
Yes.
I was caught in a torrential hurricane-related downpour in the lobby of a restaurant that I couldn't get home from in time for your esteemed programming.
Right.
And I felt so awful about it. I've spent the last 2 weeks, cat of nine tails, extra Hail Marys, everything. You name it, I've done it. Very prone
Hours,
to
literally
guilt.
hours of texts of I'm sorry.
Literally minutes of penance, repentance, and regret. And so today rolls around, and I wake up. I'm staying with Laura Luma actually, and I wake up at about 6:40 because her disgusting bulldog licks me on the face to wake me up so it can go and take a shit. It's the worst thing in the world. So I literally have to go in the bathroom, just like scrub the stench of it off. It's just, anyway, this morning I was like, open the door, let it go out, went for a tinkle, as my grandmother used to say, got some water, went back, had a nap. And when I woke up from my nap, I had been bitten on the face by a Floridian domestic arachnid. And therefore, this is why I'm wearing my shades. I will now reveal to you the awful consequences of this. I promise. No, it's serious. It's not. I've never appeared in public like this before. I was mortified. Look at it. Look. I did a very, very well received and well-known live stream once called "A Spider Bit Me." But look at this shit. I was bitten by a spider, and
that is impressive. Very impressive.
Look at me. And because of my deep, abiding respect and affection for you, and
admiration
as well, and my sorry, what show is this?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nobody remembers the name.
It's been such a long day. Who the fuck is this guy? No, because of my deep, abiding respect and admiration for you, which I've held close to my chest for at least the last 4.5 minutes. I couldn't let you down. But I just would like to explain to viewers. This is a very long preamble before discussion. I'd like to explain to viewers I was not in fact punched in the face by Laura Loomer because I failed to file my weekly Mossad report in time. I was not assailed by marauding Antifa activists in southern Florida. No, actually, I was bitten by a spider.
I think we can confirm that if you were assaulted by Laura Loomer, you probably would not be in any shape to be here. She
Why, you
seems
think
really.
She can fight?
I think she seems pretty feisty to me.
Well, she's quite skinny now, so to me, I'm a fag, but I'm 6'2", and you know, even when I'm not really working out, like I'm
know
kind of
you're taller than me. I know you've been.
Yeah, which is really, really hot, and something that no matter what happens to you in your life, you'll simply never achieve.
I want to talk about that, by the way. You've been doing all of these personal attacks on me on Parler.
What the fuck? What are you talking about? I never mentioned you. I don't even know who you are. Who is this man? Who is this man? Who is this man?
They're personal attacks. I mean, first you
How can I
said
be
that
attacking you and I don't
men...
know who? I literally have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are.
This is my favorite thing from social media, that everybody assumes that every post that from someone they follow is about them. And that's one of my favorite things, is to then like turn it back on you and be like, oh my God.
I don't take things personally because I'm not the kind of person that likes to make a fuss or draw attention to myself or or be theatrical or whatever. So I do my best not to kind of engage on an emotional level with things because it's not about me.
Yeah. So
I'm very self-effacing in that way. In fact, it's something that all my friends say. They say church mouse.
Church mouse. That's what they say about you.
I look so ugly.
So
I've never looked
stop
ugly
looking at
in my
yourself.
life. I've never looked so ugly. I've never looked ugly. I'm gonna put a shirt over the bit of the screen that's showing me because I look awful. I'm doing it. Look, I'm doing it. All right, there we go.
But it's one of my favorite things that I've learned from social media is that everyone takes everything personally. So I was gonna pull up a parlor of yours, or a parlay, or however you pronounce it, talking about fat people, and I was gonna say that this was personally an attack against me, because anytime you mention fat people, I'm so triggered, and you're clearly talking. But
about you. Well, the good thing that you have going for you is that although you are very overweight, you've got one of those faces where you don't like pile it on you've got one of those faces. You've got one of those. You bringing out
fuck
the game.
You, by the way.
No. I'm trying to be nice.
Oh, I know.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be affectionate and supportive. I'm saying, although you are very overweight, you've got one. I'm trying to be nice. You've got one of those faces where it doesn't just all pile on here like it does with so many people, So if you were to zoom in as close on you as you have the camera on me, yeah, I should maybe. But I'm just saying,
well,
like,
how about back here? Go like this.
For as big as you are, you're like relative. You're on towards the handsome end of the spectrum for big people.
I think so.
No, you are. Because like most fat people are just absolutely fucking disgusting. But you're like towards the handsome end of. Can we change the subject?
Yeah, we can. I will let you know that I was very flattered by your appearance on the Kill stream when you said that I was your favorite overweight person.
Did I really say that? I can't do his show without so much wine, because his listeners are so awful. And Ralph and I go back like to Gamergate and everything, and I love him and all the rest of it. But his audience is so dreadful.
His audience was really bad. I was on there like the next week or something, but
it's just
hilarious.
Ghastly. It's ghastly. His audience is the worst, and I can't do that show and be ready for the Q&A without having had a lot of wine. So sometimes I express myself.
So actually, you were very polite about it. You were like, I'm not often a fan of overweight people, but I like him. It's like, oh god.
This is why I should do these shows sober, because I don't even remember my own good lines. That's such a nice, charming, hilarious thing that I said, and I don't even remember it. I'm so mad.
His audience was really funny because it like they I mean they're just trolls, obviously. Like everybody that's on there is just
there's
trolls.
Good trolls. There's good trolls.
Yeah.
And there's tiresome trolls.
I had a good time on there, and there was a large contingent of people that did not like me, and so they kept like making fun of my nose. I don't know. They were like, his nose is so huge. It's a weird nose, and I was like, I don't care.
I'm looking at you.
It's just it's a triangle.
But give me a proper profile, though. Oh, I see what the problem is. Yeah. No, I get it now. Yeah. It's something that's there's something of the woodland sorceress about it,
Yeah,
she like pop out from behind a tree and bewitch you. You have the nose of somebody that casts spells. You have a hexer's nose. You have a nose for dark magics.
Are we going to talk about gypsies now? Is that what we're going to do?
Are we?
I don't know. That seems like the logical place to go. Give me your tears, gypsy.
Oh, right. No, I don't like to make generalizations about ethnic groups of people. Some people find that kind of thing very offensive.
Do they? Is that a bad thing now?
Gosh, I do hope so. I'm in this period now where I'm like kind of semi-retired because what choice have I got? And
you've been retired.
Like an old heifer, or like a racehorse that's past its best. It used to win the Grand National every year in a row. You could always put $50 on a horse, then it would always return you 200. But horses get old, and one day they have to be made into glue. And I am sitting around in a paddock outside a factory somewhere in the outskirts of Detroit, waiting to be made into glue sticks.
As soon as the coronavirus lets up, they will start the glue factory
They're gonna start the glue factory. Anyway, I have been semi-forcibly semi-retired, and it's wonderful. I've had $500,000 in my checking account, and I have had $50 in now. But I have been happier because I feel so free. I can just say anything. I must be the freest person in America. I can literally say anything. It's wonderful.
And Gavin's got you a spot on Censored, right?
Yeah. I do a thing for him. So I do a thing for him on Fridays, and then I still write books. So I wrote a book about Roger Stone's trial, which is
that was just recently you came out with that, right?
Yeah. So actually, it's a good book. It's a good book. It's short and it's a nice read. It's like half the length of like it's like 30,000 words. It's a quick read, but it's good. It's one of my better books, and we raised a bit of money. We continue to do so for his legal defense fund and whatnot. So you can find that at stonetrial.com if you haven't picked that up yet. So yeah, no, I'm writing and I'm having a wonderful time, and I'm just figuring out whether and how to go back to work or not, because I kind of
What would you do? Would you go back to like a Breitbart type of thing, or?
I don't know. I mean, really, I'm a speaker first, and an author second. So it's very difficult. And I think probably the most likely thing will be I'm going to have to buy some venues. I'm going to have to buy somewhere in New York, buy somewhere in LA, buy somewhere in either Texas or somewhere in the middle. So there's somewhere you can't get kicked out. Somewhere I own, and that's where I give my speeches. And I'll just do a little whatever, and people can come to me, and I can't be canceled from there. The only issue with that model is that it does provide a sort of stationary target for protesters. Right. It also reduces the variables for law enforcement and for security, because you kind of know what you're getting, and you can have like, a gated access some distance from the property itself. So you probably need to buy a property with a little land, a little bit like not exactly in the center of town. So there's a lot of complicating factors, but I was a property developer before I was a journalist, so I
So you got some background there.
Well, the thing is, I can always go back to making money if I need it. But also, more importantly, I have a little bit of understanding of how to put this together, and my savings are in the form of property in London.
Would it just be you, or would
which
it be a venue for people like you?
Oh no, I turn into a club, like a membership club. We'll all speak there. We'll have our summits. We'll have extravaganzas. We'll have whatever. I mean,
I'm going
we
to
might
say
even,
this
we
like
could
I'm
do
shocked,
retreats
but
there.
I'm not. But that's an extremely good idea, actually.
I don't know. I mean, thanks. Just thanks. I know. I kind of like loosely costed it, and I figured out that I have like, if I sell my flat in London, and if I sell another flat I own some of in London, I have just about enough money to build the first two, or to buy the first two and kit them up like they need to be done, to have like one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. So
like
I mean,
New York, or would you do like DC?
I mean, I was actually thinking of Florida as a better. Yeah, I was thinking maybe somewhere in sort of Central Florida be a better place.
So you can
maybe
spider bit all the time.
Well, no, because I won't be living in like a flea and mite infested, like fetid, dog stench drenched fucking beach
now
apartment.
remember, you're talking about Laura Loomer's apartment here, so let's be kind.
Yeah, I know, but she's one of my best friends. I fucking hate her, and she's just one of my dearest, closest, best friends. I cannot stand the bitch, and so anyway, so I'm just staying with her for a while, and I love her, but the dog is just driving me crazy. But no, I wouldn't live on the beach because there's too many creepy crawlies when you live around the beach. You got to live inland a little bit. I mean, she lives in a great location, and Palm Beach is fabulous. But I want to be somewhere a little bit more, like one of those modern wet cubey things. Anyway, I think Central Florida is a better place for the East Coast one, because people are generally like pretty happy to travel to Florida for things. So it's kind of nice, and it's cheap. It's cheap.
We're going to Florida anyway, right? Yeah.
It's cheap to get to. It's one of the only states in America that is actually still America. Florida is like fundamentally a lawless place. Down the south, it's Latin America, so no one gives a shit about anything. And as you get further up, it becomes just sort of like just a lawless place. You never see the police on the highway. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can drink and drive like every day. You will never be caught. It's fine. And then as you get right up to the top of, it basically turns bits up there that maybe I wouldn't want to live in, but basically all of Florida is great.
And then in California, you have a spot there.
California, I was thinking of doing a more temporary solution, because I don't think that America is going to be one country forever. And so, before I like buy a bunch of property and become a property owner in a state that might not be in the union anymore, I might want to do a more temporary solution on the week. I don't know, but I would guess, if you've read that book, American Nations by Colin Woodard, and you understand where the different tribes in America come from, where the Dutch are, where the Germans are, where the English are, where the, and even down to like bits, whatever, America's still in those tribal groups electorally and culturally and artistically, everything. America hasn't really changed that much from the original settler kind of migration patterns. And, I mean, he says it's like 11 different nations. I don't think the country's going to split into 11, but I do plausibly, realistically see California, Oregon, and Washington State splitting off. I think it's more likely than unlikely in my lifetime.
How long do you think?
My lifetime, I mean, like 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
There's not much support for secession among normal actual people.
Seems like a long shot right now, but I could see.
No, but in 10 years, it's going to be like Scottish independence in what basically how this stuff works is like when you get a groundswell, you get all of the political opportunists who are able to get funded by somebody who has deep pockets and a vested economic interest in these things happening, and they just come up again and again and again until they happen. Like Proposition 8, like this, like that, right? So Scottish independence is like that in the UK. Scottish independence is just going to keep coming up until eventually they say okay, and then when they say okay, there's no coming back and it's done.
Yeah.
It's like Brexit. These things. So when it eventually does become something that like splits the public like 55-45, there will be a referendum, and then they won't do it, and then whatever. Eventually it'll happen. So I would say between 10 and 20 years.
So, how closely do you follow like European politics, and do you follow it pretty closely?
I try to stay abreast of Britain because it's home,
Right.
and because so many of my friends that I was growing up with, because I went to a nice school in a nice bit of the country, so a lot of the people I grew up with and my friends are now in quite influential positions in like media and government and all the rest of it. So listening to the news is kind of like catching up with like school friends for me a little bit.
Yeah.
When it comes to like London media and politics and stuff. So I listen. The Spectator is a magazine it's the world's oldest continuously published magazine, which now has a US edition, which is very, very good. And the British version of that, I listen to a podcast and I read the magazine religiously. And so the UK I know well. Other stuff I kind of know, I guess, as well as any other like politically engaged conservative. I know like more about Hungary, for instance, than I do about Slovenia for obvious reasons, and
Yeah.
more about Germany than I do about Portugal. So it's mainly just if something interesting has happened there. But I'm here now, so I pay most attention to stuff here.
I'll just be honest. European politics is a complete mystery to me. Like just how the whole thing works. Like I understand they have a government, but like all of the different elections and all that kind of stuff. It's just I should take 20 minutes and learn it at some point.
I can do it for you much faster, and it will educate your readers, your listeners at the same time. Basically, after this, Germany has always been the troublemaker, whether it was Germany or it was called something else, or it was a loose federation of states that more closely resembled the United States, like back in the day.
Right.
Germany's always been the region from which trouble has sprung, and that goes all the way back, by the way, to the Roman Empire. So the fall of Rome, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths,
right. They were from there. Yeah.
They were the Germanic peoples who sacked Rome. When Rome finally fell, it was Germanic savages who did it. So Germany's always been the sort of aggressor, and Britain has always kind of been the sort of slightly quirky, peculiar cleaner up of the mess. And this is why the UK and the US, in addition to sharing language and values and culture and so much else, have formed such a close alliance historically, because before America was the world's policeman, the United Kingdom or Britain was the world's, landlord, or,
right.
or however you want to put it. So when the British Empire starts to fade, and the First World War, basically the British Empire begins to dissolve, European powers want to avoid a third world war, because they think, well, this is nothing else like this can ever happen again. And the basis of that war was fascistic and nationalistic. So goes the narrative, and in most respects,
right.
That's true. So the idea was that there would be a pseudo-democratic super state infrastructure that transcended national boundaries, and that would eventually become kind of like everybody's state, with its own court, its own army, its own police. This was always the idea from the beginning.
Right.
And what they were trying to do was socially engineer European countries to, so the citizens had less identification with their own nations, less patriotism and association identification with the countries they grew up in. And so instead that they would subscribe to European ideals. So in a way, it was a nice compliment to America, because it was kind of like a federal system based on principles and ideas. Right. The problem is
it was a United States of countries, basically.
Well, but the problem is America is an invented country that comes out of nowhere. So you can build whatever you want, and that's what the founders did. Right. But the problem in Europe is you have thousands of years of extraordinary, complex, beautiful, globe-defining history in France, just France alone. Add to that Germany, then add to that the UK, then add to that what was previously the Austro-Hungarian Empire, then add to that it just goes on, and then it just goes on and on and on and on. So what they were trying to do was kind of shake people out of feeling proud of their country, their nation, their region, their geography, there's not really, it's not really, to me, it doesn't really have much of an ethnic dimension because everyone in Europe considers themselves just white like everybody else in Europe. So it's not really an ethnic or a race dimension. But Germans are German, and they're always going to be German because, but they associate themselves with, they have a particular culture and a particular character and a particular style, you know. And Brits, the same. French, ferociously nationalistic. So it was a doomed project from the start, and its ideals of basically kind of whitewashing national identity in favor of this aspirational, anodyne, semi-democratic superstructure ran into a concrete wall when they tried to do things like get everyone on the same currency. Because what they didn't count on is how sticky national cultures can be. So, for instance, Germans play by the rules and pay their taxes. Greeks are cheats, swindlers, liars, and frauds. So, and I can say that because I have a little Greek and a little German in me, so I'm allowed. In fact, he's down there right now. So I can, you know, so these two completely different national cultures cannot be yoked together under a single currency. Right. It's impossible. It creates absurdities and ludicrousness. And you also can't try to subsume a country like the United Kingdom, which is always, as an island nation and for its extraordinary small size and seemingly, you know, insignificant geographic placement, owned half the world. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, isn't it?
How can you approach that country and say, oh well, actually, I know you think you've got your own judges and courts, but if you want to be part of our trading bloc, you actually need to submit to our Supreme Court, which is going to be called the Supreme Court of Human Rights, and is going to be a massively progressive, leftist, envelope-pushing, agendas, a heavily politicized judicial body, which has asserted for itself the right to overturn your national laws as and when it sees fit. And by the way, we got this bunch of new rules that you have to obey if you still want to be in the club with us. So basically, it's kind of like a Mean Girls Club where they're like, oh, and now on Wednesdays we wear pink, and you know, if you don't do that, you can't sit with us. Except it's not just Wednesdays that wear pink. It's an enormous stack of rules about what you can wear on what days and what precise Pantone shades your tops can be.
Well, and whether or not your borders are porters.
Right, and in the end, people just said, I don't know if I want to be in your club. I think I'll have lunch with someone else. I'm going to go sit with the goths.
Were you surprised by Brexit?
No, it was inevitable, and it's particularly inevitable for the UK because it has such a the UK is like in terms of character, British people are mischievous and defiant, right? So this is why our press flyish. We've got a tabloid tradition, and in Britain, people don't look down on the tabloids. Like over here, the closest thing is maybe the New York Post, I guess. But we have like a bunch of newspapers like that, and they're all national, and they all way outsell our equivalents of the New York Times and the Washington Post. So we have this tradition of like mid-brow, middle market, gadflyish challenge to authority. In Britain, you could never have something like the White House Correspondents' Dinner because here journalists are part of the establishment.
Right.
In Britain, journalists are desperately clawing and tearing it down. A prime minister is walking into a room of 10 journalists would be terrified because if you're in a room with 10 journalists and you're speaking for half an hour, you will say something that will get you like in trouble. Because they're all just there. I mean, the nature of the journalist doesn't change. They're still scumbags, and you know they're still dreadful. But it's about the national character of like defiance and wanting to like pick at authority rather than wanting to preen and become it. So in America, you have lots of pomp and circumstance, the office of the president of the United States, and this is something that new countries do to reassure themselves that they're important.
Right.
They have lots of fancy pomp and circumstance and grandeur and over the top, like this, that, and the other. Not, you know, that's all kind of invented out of nowhere. America did the same thing with religions, by the way. There was with all those pseudo-Christian cults, Christian Science and Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormonism, all just invented out of nowhere. I mean, LDS was just invented by a farmer in the 1820s. He just like made up that he'd found some gold tablets. It was just all complete crap.
Yeah,
But
we've all seen the South Park.
Right. America's invented its own history because it didn't have any, right? So it's
Right.
invented this new mythology, none of which is more than 150 years old. And Britain, on the other hand, is a country that is thousands of years old. I mean, you got where I went to school in Canterbury, in the southeast of England. Well, it's called Canterbury now, but it used to be called Duravernum Cantiocorum when it was part of the Roman Empire. And all those.
I like the new name better. It's a lot easier to say.
No, I don't. It used to be a point, because I went to a good school, and it used to be a point of pride for us to try to remember as many of the other ones. Colchester, Colonia Claudia Victricensis. So there's a
sounds like Hogwarts. Were you doing spells?
We used to be able to rattle them all off. No, I was expelled from many schools, but not that one. Anyway, there's so much history and independence and patriotism and a distinctive spirit. I mean, you think Americans are patriotic? Europeans are too. We don't do all of the flying the flag 4th of July like over the top ghost shit, but that doesn't mean we don't feel it. And it doesn't mean that we don't like take it very seriously. And it doesn't mean that we don't respond when it's threatened. As you can see from the history of the wars on that continent, that America's had to wade in to help the fires it's put out. But Europeans are just as patriotic and just as nationalistic, if you like, which I don't use as a dirty word. It's a good word, as Americans. We just don't wear it on our sleeves so much. So you try to yoke these. I mean, look, Germany, France, Britain. They kind of invented the world, right? You've got the Industrial Revolution, Adam Smith in Scotland. You've got all the philosophy there. You've got the British Empire. You've got France, the French Revolution, all the terrible, awful philosophical horse shit that's now invented the academy throughout the world. All French. All the bad guys are French. Derrida, Lacan.
All the bad guys are French.
They're all French. All of the very, very, very worst stuff in the academy, all French. Or it's somebody who exclusively, Derrida, Lacan, you've got Foucault, Bourdieu, all French. All the worst things in the world, French. But some of the best things in the world, also French. Pont l'Evêque cheese, French, fabulous.
Baguettes?
Faggots?
Baguettes.
Oh, baguettes. Sorry. No. Faggots are Italian. Germany, Wagner, Mozart, Beethoven, Kant, Heidegger, Schopenhauer, like extraordinary, amazing. Marx, I guess. These three countries. These three countries. He ended up being more British than German anyway. These three countries, you just can't summarily announce that they're going to be part of a super state where they all have the same army and some shit national anthem that no one's ever heard of. No one voted for, a flag they don't relate to and don't know about, a parliament they can't unelect because it's not directly elected by them. It's crazy, it's insane. So yeah, Brexit was inevitable. That was a really long answer.
It was a very long answer, but it was complete and thorough, which I appreciate.
I'm very smart and charming.
I got a super chat for you, by the way.
And when I'm not being bitten by spiders, quite handsome.
So Charlie says, Milo, you're loved. I don't agree with everything you say, but at least you're consistent.
That's always a lie. Don't you get mad? I was with Roger Stone a few days ago. So my show that I do for Gavin that you so kindly mentioned earlier, tomorrow's edition of that, Friday Night's All Right, is a pre-recorded sit down with me and Roger where I talk about this rediscovery of Christianity he had while he was going through his trauma. And I sort of start the interview. I'm just like, at just the time that you need a surge of grassroots conservative support in America, you suddenly discover Christ. Tell us about that. but I mean, I'm just teasing. But he's obviously a sincere believer and all the rest of it. He's a Catholic like me. So,
yeah, we talked about it. I had him on the show
right.
So it was good talk.
Yeah. So we were talking the other day, and he was saying one of his. We were at dinner a few days ago, and he said that one of his pet hates is these people who say, now I don't agree with everything he says, but, or now I don't like everything he does, but it's always a lie. If you ask that person, okay, well, what do you not agree with? They can't produce anything. And what the reason for that is that I don't agree with everything, but is actually a throat clearing exercise designed to give them cover before they give a dangerous person a compliment. So
that's why I do it.
Right. So yeah. Well, I don't do it because I'm not a fucking pussy and because my friends aren't dicks.
Oh, okay.
So just kidding. No. So look, the only people who will still talk to me are the people who are in the exact same situation I'm in. So I've got nothing to lose. I can tell people what I really think about everything because it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
She's my best friend.
I've still got a few platforms left, but yeah. No.
Well, not for long.
Yeah, no, they're gonna go away soon.
I've got you. By the way, I shouldn't ever mention this because I don't want them to remember that I exist because I think they've forgotten that I exist. But I do actually still have a YouTube channel, which stuns me on a daily basis.
Oh, that's right.
Every morning I wake up thinking it's going to be gone. But that's people always ask me, why don't you post more on YouTube? Why don't you post more on YouTube? I was like, because they'll remember I'm around, because they'll remember I exist. They've forgotten about me, and I want to leave it that way.
You're fine as long as you never post on YouTube again.
Right. I'll keep my or just like or maybe just talk about, I don't know, cookie. I'll make a cookery show or cocktails. Yeah. Tell people how to make the perfect martini, and then I'll probably keep my show.
You know, YouTube is where I found you. You know, the in 2016.
Right. But wait, it was a big thing.
Your speeches were great. I
era defining, really. I mean, yeah. If you look at the awful, repetitive trash that we're still, all this free speech shit, we are so far past that. Like freedom, that was the whatever. Like all the free speech stuff, I did that half a decade ago. And you've got like, you know, the fucking Turning Point and all the rest of it. They're still recycling my talking points from 5 years ago. It's so boring. There's another reason I'm not sure about getting back into politics, because I'm someone who always wants to be like crafting the next thing. Making the next thing, you know, it's like the difference. I mean, most of your audience are not going to know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm going to use this example anyway because it's a really good one. It's the difference between being like Nicki Minaj and Rami Ma, right? You can be the kind of like sellout, packaged, whatever, or you can be the person who actually creates culture. And then when she comes back and drops a diss track like Sheetha, it like tears the world apart for a few months. And that's the kind of personality I am. I'm always going to be like Rami Ma or like or more like Lil Kim or something like that. Somebody who has big highs and big lows, but is always coming back once a decade and doing something completely fucking off the wall that everyone later realizes was absolutely amazing and defines everything everybody does for 5 years. That's me. So I'm like that's me. So so I'm just currently deciding if politics deserves me or not, or whether I should go do something else, like go talk about pop culture full time. Or
I was
whatever,
actually gonna.
I know as much about that as I do about politics, because politics are boring. So yeah, I don't know. I can talk about anything. I can be interesting on any subject. So it's I
was going to ask you
why do this
or if you were bored with politics, because I'm almost bored with. I mean, politics has still got some energy in it. I mean, Trump adds some energy to it, but not like really. It's not.
I have to say, I'm very disappointed. I mean, I consider all of you my offspring, right? So you all basically grew in my wake. After like 2015, 16, when I basically kind of like opened up the market for Turning Point, for this, for that, for everything. I invented Dave Rubin, like all this shit, right? And I've just been so disappointed by my ideological like descendants. You're all so fucking bad. Thanks. Like just, but not you personally, because I don't know who you are, but I don't remember your name, so I'm not talking about you, but no, God, all the people who basically got famous off the back of me and are now still recycling my shtick from half a decade ago, they're so boring. I mean, it's like, have you read a book since? Like
I have not. I have
not you. I don't know you. But I just, oh God, I'm so sick of it. I'm so bored. I'm just so disappointed. I'm like, is this the political movement I inspired? Because I fucking hate it. I hate it. So, you know, I'm in that situation that Gavin is in. Gavin is like, you know, created culture for a whole generation of people. He did it a generation before I did, right? He did it with Vice. So his like core fan base is the same age as him. It's like, you know, he's 60 and whatever, because he was like inventing culture for young people like 40 years ago, like 35 years ago. So my thing was more recent, but we're both looking at what we created and be like, what the fuck happened? I mean, Gavin created Vice, which turned into hell. He created Hipsterdom, which turned into hell. It's just we're both in like a bewildered position where we are like, we're always going to be untouchable and difficult to engage with, and somebody you have to apologize for knowing. But we're also fucking icons, and like, don't compare yourself to me, bitch, because you're not on my level. Like, like, you're just not on my fucking, not you, I don't know you, but just like whoever you are. Like,
just do that after every statement you make. Not you, but
I thought I was. I thought it was the running joke, and now you spelled it out. I have to change something else.
No, fine.
No, I'm just like to whoever, like to whoever. It's like, but you are not on my level. And Gavin and I both have just been these incredible. Like, I mean, he's really like the.
I love Gavin.
He's the master architect of
Gavin is really
our,
awesome.
Like,
he'll just call you too. Like he just calls and randomly calls and talks to me every once in a while.
Well, he's very lonely, and none of his famous friends will talk to him anymore. Like Joe Rogan won't reply to his texts or won't call him back anymore. So he's had to go down and down and down the food chain. Like,
until he got to me.
I don't return his calls. He goes down, down, down. Brandon Straight won't return his calls. Chadwick Moore won't return his calls. Down, 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 down. Rob Smith won't return his calls. Charlie Cook, down, 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 down. They're all the way down to, like, really scraping the absolute rotten barrel with Joy Villa.
I'm so glad that I had you on the show today.
Joy Villa, the Scientologist, won't return your calls. And eventually, at the end, finally, out of desperation, of despair, like, he's got clumps of hair in his hands. Finally, he's like, I don't even know who this is. I'll just call and see what happens. So anyway, that's nice for you, but taunting's how men bond. No, but we're just what I was saying is we're just watching this awful, sad unfolding of just brainless boredom, and this is the cost of being one of those types of personalities, aside from you always being like having peaks and troughs in your career over the decades. It's also just watching what complete drivel and bilge people make out of what you did like sometime later. So all of which to say, I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing next, and I'm in no particular special hurry. I don't carry water for anybody. Nobody owns me. I'm not especially politically partisan. I would never have been interested in the Republican Party were it not for Trump, because they're hopeless idiots and laughable. Like,
and
morons.
They still are.
No, of course they are. And when Trump goes and he's a blip in the Republican Party history, I will again cease to have any interest in them. So I'm not really primarily interested in politics, and I don't know. I mean, I just don't know, and I'm not especially in a rush to find out, because the thing is, in addition to being modest and humble and self-effacing, I'm also incredibly talented, just really amazing at like a bunch of stuff. So I could do pretty much whatever I want. I'm not especially in a hurry to find out what that is. I'm quite happy retired. I have love in my life. I'm not hungry. I got clothes on my back. I'm good. Like I have wealthy, famous friends in every city in the world. Whose pool houses I can live in, like, year round. I can consonant hop for the next 10 years if I want to, without deciding. But I don't know. I would very much like your advice, if you have any, what you think I should do next, because I've been soliciting it from people that I like, that I've been watching.
My advice would be, do whatever you think you should do, because it's worked out for you so far. I mean, I think
that's it. You see, I think I just have to be like,
the gut level stuff is really good.
Yeah, I just have to be pulled by the spirit. I can't rush it. So but
I do really like your idea, the idea of a venue where honestly, you would just be able to speak.
Honestly, that's a good business, even if it's not the thing I do for a living. It's a good side hustle, I think it would be profitable. You do it as a membership club, have like some rooms upstairs so people can stay over if they're traveling from out of state. You have your venue, basically, if I like you, you can book my venue, and then that will be basically.
Well, that's the way the world works now. if I like you, you can speak. That's how this
Right,
all
right.
works
But
now.
there are
So
clubs for every other group except my friends. And I
right.
like my friends. I think my friends are awesome. My friends are Roger Stone and Laura
Mhm.
Loomer and Alex Jones and Gab
Right.
McGinnis. And I don't know you, but I feel sure that we are going to become friends at some point in the future. And when you get banned off absolutely everything, you can definitely warm up for one of like the actual stars. And then we get I'm sorry, I can't help it because you're so sweet. You just look so no, you look so adorable. I just want you're so sweet. I just want to give you a big hug and then abuse you some more.
You wouldn't be able to fit your arms around me.
I've got quite long arms. I'm like six. No, I'm very long. Look, I'm long limbed. I'm
Yeah,
long limbed.
we all
They're
know
big
you're
long arms.
tall.
How tall? How tall are you? Are you like
I'm like
Shapiro
5'9".
end of? Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's well, at least you know. So I was in the pool. I think it was today. Yeah, it was today. And it just said 4'4", and I just put it on Telegram with them at the Shapiro end of the pool, because there is no end to my like grudge holding or pettiness. And people sometimes mistake this for like being bitter or hung up or stuck in the past. I'm
Right.
like, no, I just hold grudges and I love every second of it. Move on with your life.
It's just
So
fun. It's
just
fun.
it's fucking funny to be still abusing and bullying and torturing the same people like 5 years later. It's fucking hilarious. Like, get a grip. So anyway,
Speaking of that, by the way, how odd was it for you to be kicked off of Twitter for like the least offensive thing you ever did?
I said I posted a picture with the. I don't want to get into all this because everyone's heard it so many times.
Oh, I know. We don't have to get into it, but it's so weird that
no, but it is. Well, here's the rule is you get banned not for the most far right thing you say or for the most outrageous or offensive thing you say. Your likelihood of getting banned is in proportion to how angry you get the left.
yeah.
So because you started to get the left super angry because the president was retweeting some of your funny content,
Right.
you started to get them upset, you're out. Although nothing you've ever done has come close to like my introductory routine or my college speeches, right? Nothing you've done has touched. No, I mean, like, I'd be like, I say hello more rudely than anything you've ever met.
Yeah.
You know, like as viewers of the show
it's
have
boomer
figured
memes.
out.
Boomer memes.
Right. No, it is. But you're like, you know, you are the Da Vinci of really tired cliches.
Yeah.
And no, no, but look, you are the best at what you do, and that's all that you should aspire to do. And no, look, it's important. Some people like shampoo carpets, and if I shampooed carpets, I would want to be the best motherfucking carpet shampooer in the whole world. And you have found your carpet to shampoo. And you look, you're at the pinnacle of your
I'm at the top,
you're at the top of the tree. That nobody shampoos a carpet like you. So I believe in taking pride in your work. You know, I am cursed with the gift of being a cultural icon, and you know, pain and suffering and attention and jealousy and envy, which is how I get into so much trouble because other people just cannot cope with not being me. And so can you imagine why people got a bit pissed off with me and decided they wanted to deplatform me, even my friends?
I can't imagine at all.
Even this is how I talk to people that I like. Yeah, you can imagine. So anyway, I just believe in being the best at what you do, and I'm actually not. What you do is of vital, critical, electoral importance, and has an enormous cultural impact. It's a different audience from the audience I'm used to playing to,
Right.
but it is an audience, if anything, that is way more important electorally because other people actually vote, right. and so on and so forth. So I mean, we joke because you know we like each other and we have a good time, but in all sincerity, what you do is actually very, very important and impactful, and that's why you got yeeted, and that's why you know you're going to lose all your platforms soon if you haven't already. So you know you get banned in an exact proportion to how mad you make the left. And in 2015-16, nobody made them more mad than me.
Right.
So that's how to guess if you're watching this and you're wondering and you're thinking, well, I quite like it, whatever. We're in a new chapter now where the free speech stuff is fucking dead and over, and you've got like, you know, appalling asshole like opportunists who are raising 20-30 million a year to, like, you know, have fake campus organizations, you know, with bullshit statistics and stupidly overproduced stages with no talent on them, you know, talking about free speech still, when the actual conservative grassroots has moved on.
Right.
They're now much more concerned with an agenda that looks closer, frankly, have to say, to the sorts of things that Nick Fuentes is saying. Although I don't, again, I'm going to do it myself now. Don't agree with everything he's saying.
I don't agree with everything Nick Fuentes says, but
no, some of the things that poisonous little cunt says drive me insane. But other things, I'm like, he's fucking brilliant. He's very charismatic, and
he is. He is.
Buckets of. He has so much talent and so much charisma. I just want him to focus on Christianity and less on race. But anyway, the point is that the base has moved on, and especially young grassroots conservatives. The free speech thing is like, okay, yeah, well, everybody knows now that we write about that, whether we have it or we don't. And now now Congress is hauling tech companies in and questioning about that. Is that's a clue to you that the front lines battle has gone somewhere else now? So, you know, the new dissident young right is much more concerned with traditional family values and order, perhaps over freedom, or at least in the Burkean sense, order is the basis for freedom. You know, nationalism and strong borders and all the rest of it. Like the Trump electoral manifesto has sort of blossomed out into a more general appreciation and even a sort of fetishism, a lust for more social conservatism, and in particular, a weirdly Catholic, a really flavored conservatism. Now you'll see like bullshit artists like Charlie Carpe on Twitter, like constantly genuflecting to God, and it's just kind of like it's like a throat clearing exercise for him. It's just, you know, it's just bullshit that's pandering to evangelicals, the evangelicals he wants money from. But there are also people who saw this coming a little bit earlier, and it's why I wrote my book Diabolical about the Catholic Church, which also had some, you know, I was trying to weave in the last chapter of that book, or maybe it's the appendix. I can't remember what the taxonomy of the book is, but the last chunk of the book is what the Catholic Church gave to Western civilization. And you discover, when you look into these things, that in fact, freedom, democracy, property rights, capitalism, none of these are the basis of Western civilization, nor is whiteness. The basis of Western civilization is Christianity. It's Christ.
Right.
And whether or not you are a Christian, it is simply inescapable. And look, we've forgotten this, but the African migrants know it. That's why they burned down the cathedral in Nantes. That's why, you know, Nantes Cathedral, I don't know how you say it in America, but that's why they burned that down. That's why it will never, ever, ever come to light what really happened to Notre Dame in Paris, because it would be too much of an international scandal, and because the French citizens would want to close their borders for 100 years. It will never come to light what really happened there, but we all fucking know. And look, all the attacks on churches, or the heads getting knocked off the Marys, like all the way through Europe, all by Syrian and African migrants coming to Europe, instinctively understand that the church is the root of cultural power for the West, right? And so the dissident right in this country is kind of rediscovering that obvious fact. And unfortunately, the party, the Charlie Kirks, the Breitbarts, unfortunately, which has become so boring since, like, no me and no Steve Bannon. I mean,
yeah, I used to enjoy your articles on Breitbart.
God, it was awful. It was awful. I would have been such a fan of mine if I hadn't actually been me in like 2015. No, I know, but you know, in 2015, 16, because it was like, who the fuck was writing like that? Who was doing anything like that? And I'm so grateful to them for, you know, the chance and all the rest of it. And there's good people there, and all of it. It's so boring now.
No one is writing like that. The only one that's writing like that is like Babylon Bee, basically.
But nobody does now. Nobody does now. There's never been anybody before or since that did anything like it, which is so sad. It's so disappointing for me, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to blow off the fire doors, I'm going to invent this new genre for you, and then I want new intellectuals to take up, you know, to take it up, to like argue with me, to develop the thoughts, to take it further. No, none of it happens. There are no good writers. Like, who is like the star journalist of the America First right, of the Trump? There's nobody. Nobody who can string a sentence together. Nobody who can crack a good joke. It's a fucking tragedy. It's awful. It's so disappointing and dreadful that nobody has risen. Nobody is like, I mean, it's just so sad to me. But anyway, the point is, all of these is, high establishment to aspiring to be part of the establishment. None of them have caught up with any of this yet. They're still fighting. They're still fighting culturally. They're still fighting the wars of the last election, the free speech, the whatever. Everyone I know, and I have my kind of head buried deep in ass. No, just kidding. I have my head buried very deep.
It's bound to happen eventually.
I don't like to do that. I have my head buried very, very deep in a lot of the edgier subcultures, kind of buried around various apps and bits of the internet that other people don't like to go to, which I know you have some purchase in and some experience with, and so I, as somebody who is a good pattern matcher, which is kind of one of my great skills, I think, is I can kind of like take a bunch of data and quickly figure out where I've seen that sort of pattern before in history, and therefore kind of figure out what's coming and see around corners in that way. I've always kind of been able to see around corners, I like to say often, and it's because I'm a good pattern matcher, and because I try to read and learn and think and stuff, and I'm like, oh, well, those four things happened in that order, then in history, and both times this came next. So now I know what's going to happen next year in America, and history is like that. Every historian will tell you that. So I've been able to see this extraordinary revival, this resurgence of social conservatism and this real like retrenchment away from free market, open borders, kind of classical GOP stuff. And there's an amazing thing, I don't know how to pull it up to show you, but I'm sure some of your listeners will have seen it before. There's this amazing map on the political compass, and I know that left and right as categories are meaningless these days, but there's an amazing graph on the political compass that shows this sort of loose L shape that is the American electorate, and it goes from the from the libertarian left, sweeping up all the way to the authoritarian right, with obviously the dots going from blue to red for Democrat and Republican voters, right? Yeah. In the bottom right-hand corner, the libertarian right doesn't exist in the electorate. There aren't any of them. There's a couple of like weirdos on Reddit, and there's the Republican Party in Washington, and that's it. They don't exist in America. There's no electoral constituency anywhere in the country for red in tooth and claw, aggressive free market capitalism, the stuff Ben Shapiro actually believes when he's not pandering to children. Nobody would vote for that, right? There's just a huge empty space in one of the four quadrants of that political compass. And when we're talking about the American electorate, so, see that the Democrat Party is able to kind of like bend and twist and shape to kind of cover all of its constituency over on the left, in the same way that the Conservative Party in Britain has been very good at sort of reimagining itself with every new electoral cycle and kind of like appealing to winning over and over again. Literally nobody in the country is for what most of the people who work in or around the Republican Party are for. Nobody. And this explains Trump's like 98% approval ratings, because Trump is over with the rest of us. He's not in that bottom right quadrant. He's not in that libertarian right quadrant. He's up.
That's why we were screaming in 2016, saying we don't want any of these people on this stage.
Totally freaking the fuck out. No, but that's why they hate him, because when you understand what all the ramifications of that are, well, what's this guy going to come in and do? He's going to cut off all of our revenue streams. He's going to cut off all of our ability to enrich ourselves and to make ourselves powerful. And now you have the sight of like the Lincoln Project, which is this organization that it consists of Republican operatives who were turned down for jobs in the White House.
It's
and they
the
were
Anna
so
Navarros of the world,
right, but they're so
basically.
bitter and they couldn't get over it that they're all in debt and they've got mortgages to pay. So they just
Yeah.
oh well, we'll just do an anti-Trump thing for 4 years. They don't even believe what they're doing. They don't believe the videos they're putting out, which is just so horrifying and disgusting and appalling and dispiriting and maddening and just like so demotivating as a voter and as a human being. That this is how America works, but it's true. All these people putting out videos, all these political operatives, they don't believe any of what they're saying and doing. It's just so sad. But that's why I like Laura,
Yeah.
because she's crackers and she's a lunatic and I fucking hate her with guts, but she's like my best friend and I hate her. And she's say what you want about her. She is indefatigable. She is a workhorse. She works. She might fucking win, Just
Right.
looking, she has raised nearly $1 million for a congressional run in like a +7 or a +9 district. She's now polling within the margin of error, according to some polls, with her opponent, who's like some fifth term Nancy Pelosi, adjutant.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Her
It's
opponent
remarkable.
is nuts.
I've just watched. I've had this realization descend on me. I'm just like, she's crackers. She's crackers. I love her, but she's crackers. And over the last couple of months, I've just suddenly realized, fuck, the bitch is gonna win. She's gonna fucking
Yeah.
win, and she deserves to. And I love it. And it's she's very much in the mold of Trump. One of these people who is, reflexive and atavistic and instinctive rather than overthinking intellectual whatever, because those overthinking intellectual Republicans end up in positions that have nothing to do with the electorate, that have, that they're lost in this Hayek intellectual masturbatory nonsense world that nobody actually lives in and nobody believes in, and which has fucked the country.
Well, she's a doer. She's
And she
somebody
gets
that
out and she
goes.
does it.
Yeah,
I think
she goes and does it.
I mean, look, like I said, she's amazing. She's amazing. I have to say that because she's in the kitchen right now. But she
Hi, Laura, by the
way. She can't hear you. And she doesn't know you. So she's did you? Just kidding. But no, she loves you. But no, this is why I think the electorate's so excited about candidates like her, because they're the very few self-described conservative politicians who are living in that L shape with the rest of us,
And it's so hard to find those candidates though too, because they, a lot of them put on that mask. What's his name? The guy with the eye patch. I can never remember his name.
Crenshaw.
Yeah, Crenshaw. So he ran on being that guy, but he's not that guy.
Oh, he's a total scumbag. He's a complete establishment. I think like most people, I was a little bit sickened and disgusted when Hassan Piker said that thing about, I'm getting fucked in his eye socket and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, look, typical disgusting violence fantasy from the progressive left. But the more I find out about Crenshaw and the more I come to despise him, the funnier I find the joke, because frankly, fuck him.
Yeah. He stood in front of, you weren't there, obviously. Alex Jones wasn't there, and Laura Loomer wasn't there. But at the social media summit, most of the biggest accounts.
Nobody who's actually been banned was at that. Nor were any of the people who've actually been banned at the White House social media summit. In fact, none of the people who've actually been banned have been invited even to testify about it. It's funny that it's almost like it's something else going on. It's not really about
sort of
social
weird
media censorship at all. I mean, I know they'd never invite me because, listen to me. You don't want this on camera. But there are people who would show up and give respectable answers to their questions, and they're not invited.
Right. Well, he stood in front of all of these people, and he basically said, "Just suck it up." That's what he said about censorship.
Yeah.
And
because from his point, because he hasn't, because his power center is elsewhere, right? If he loses his Twitter account, it won't significantly affect his life. Whereas those of us who built our businesses on the assumption that these companies would honor their agreements with us and would treat us in a fair and respectful and reasonable way, and we handed over our distribution to them, we handed over our hosting to them, we handed over our monetization to them, we handed over a bunch of essential components of our companies to these places on the implied trust, right?
Right.
And I have to say, although he's gone horribly wrong recently, the first person to point this out and the first person who was saying don't go on YouTube, which sounded insane at the time, but it was so right, was Matt Drudge. You know, if you hand over power to these companies, you will come to regret it. And it's like, it's taken a decade for him to be proven right, but boy, was he right.
Well, yeah, 2006 was the time when big Republican money should have been buying tech. That's when we should have been.
Yeah, but I don't know. Big Republican money is part of the problem. I mean, the singers and the whatever, they're all, you know, they're funding the politicians we hate too. So I don't know about that, but I don't know if that's the answer. The thing that the thing that America First right, for want of a better expression, I like to call it the divine right, since it's so religiously flavored these days. It's good, right? Divine right, like that. Yeah. You're welcome. You can have that. So the thing that it has to come to terms with, which is going to be difficult for those of us, especially, I guess you're about my age. How old are you? Like 35 or something?
38.
Right. So you're just a couple of years older than me. You're a couple of years older than me. So you're old enough to remember the excesses of the religious right in the 80s and 90s, just about.
The puritanical stuff.
Dimly aware of the fact that idiot bitches in pearls wanted to ban video games, right?
Yes.
We all are of a particular age, because we were all like,
right.
You know, and Marilyn Manson. And I was just like, really? Well, you can prize that from my cold dead hands, etc.
Right.
But here's the thing. Aside from some of the cultural censorship they wanted to do, and the video game stuff was bullshit, and there was not then, and there remains none now. There's no evidence that video games make people violent or like shoot up schools. If there is any evidence, it points somewhat in the other direction. Music, even more absurdly and ridiculously. But when it comes to almost everything else of value outside of culture, the 80s and 90s religious right were correct. They didn't understand rhetoric. They didn't understand marketing. They didn't understand how to sell their ideas, but they were right about everything. They were right about homosexuality. They were right about almost everything. You know, almost everything that you think that you know today about, you know, like minority groups or this or the other, is all an invention of leftist marketing and branding. The great genius they have for selling lies. You know, people have heard me talk about this a lot before, so I'll keep it brief. But you know, the born this way thing when it comes to homosexuals, right? This is just an invention of the gay lobby in the 80s and 90s, because the religious right was saying it's a sinful lifestyle choice. Well, guess what? Psychology has come full circle since then and said, actually, there are no gay people. There are just men who have sex with men. That's the technical term that goes on medical forms these days. Because, you know, you aren't, your identity is not in the language of the left these days. They say your identity is not foreclosed. There is not someone who is gay. There's just someone who does gay things, like has sex with men or is whatever, and your identity is fluid and all the rest of it. So in other words, it's a simple lifestyle choice. In other words, like, it's so close as for there to be no distinction. Really, you're only arguing over terminology, because the moral conclusions you draw from this are different. But there's, you know, it remains no evidence that well, look, I mean, the science obviously is 50-50. We're not going to get down some like gay. I don't want to take you down I don't want to take you down some gay back alley, but
I was going to say gay rabbit hole, but I like back alley.
I'm not going to take you down some gay back passage. Don't worry. But the point is that so much of what we think we know is just an invention of the progressive left over the last kind of 3 or 4 decades.
Well, it's mind blowing how much there is.
Right, and I mean, look, I think they were dumb on video games. I think they were dumb on music, and that's all anyone really remembers about the religious right from the 80s and 90s. But on all the other, everything about how to build a healthy, happy society. You know, the importance of the nuclear family, the corrosive effects of not of gay people who kept themselves necessarily, but of political homosexualism, if you like, right? The corrosive effects of that in public life. I know you go from one day to like, we just want to get married, you know, it's just like, it's not even about you, it's none of your business, we just want to get married, to drag queen story time and force feeding prepubescent kids gender transition hormones. It happened really fucking fast, really quick,
really fast,
right quick. And the religious right, when they said slippery slope, everyone laughed at them.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone laughed at them when they said, if you allow homosexuality to be celebrated in popular culture, if you allow political, what writers in the last century used to call homosexualism or homosexualists, to become an accepted part of public discourse and popular entertainment, it will have corrosive effects and it will end badly. They were right. It did. It has. And they were right about almost everything else as well.
Well, they were specifically right about if you, and this has nothing to do with whether or not I like gay people or whatever, but like,
well, I don't. I'm a bigot.
You don't. Yeah, you're
so
a bigot.
I am a gay-hating, homophobic bigot. In fact, I wouldn't have made a great televangelist. In a previous decade, I could have been a really, really ferociously, venomously homophobic televangelist who just got rammed every night, like, in the
yeah, don't finish that sentence.
like all of them. Every time you see one of their wives, and one of their wives looks like a, oh God, you look like a Jar Jar Gabor or Eartha Kitt or something, and you're like, your husband's gay. This huge hair and everything.
The very soft hug. No,
I would have made a great televangelist. If only I had slightly less integrity, I could still do it now. Unfortunately, I'm shackled to my noble high principles, my great spirit. So I'm shackled to my Christianity, and I can't bring myself to do these awful things. But
all I was going to say was that
sorry, I interrupted you, Karen.
No, it's all right. All I was going to say was that the Puritans of the 90s said things like, if you make homosexuality part of the mainstream, if you exalt it, more like exalting it, then we go to pedophilia, and now look where we are.
Exactly. Well, look, so everybody knows I had a manufactured hit job, whatever, but the actual facts of my career are that I've put at least 2 and possibly 3, but I don't know how the case ended up. I put at least 2 and I think 3 child offenders in jail thanks to my reporting, and I've done that, without too much fanfare, and certainly with no recognition, going back like a decade. And I wrote a long time ago, way before I even started to become famous, about the peculiar synergy, the affinity between the political left and sexual deviance, ultimately into child abuse. By the way, I was the first journalist in the world when Jimmy Savile died to say, his victim's going to get justice now. He's finally dead. Is the BBC going to stop covering up for him? I don't know how much you know about him, but he was like a very popular...
I've heard of him, but yeah.
So he was huge. I mean, we're talking like Charlie Rose level or Larry King level fame in Britain. He was like a popular entertainer. He used to do this show called Jim Will Fix It, where kids would have dreams, and their mom was like on benefits and their dad wasn't in the picture, and they just had this dream their whole life. They just wanted to meet the Queen, and Jim would make it happen. He had this show on BBC called Jim Will Fix It, and after every show he fucked the kids. So then it got sorry, but I mean then it got worse, and he started like going to orphanages on the Isle of Wight and fucking like dozens of kids, and and fiddling and all this. I was the first journalist,
and it's all documented.
Yeah. Well, look, I still have the post, although the website kind of doesn't exist anymore. But the day he died, I wrote something saying, "Are we finally going to get justice for his victims?" Because they're covering him for decades. So I did a thing for Breitbart as well. I think also like 2015, 16, which is a good one. You should look that up if you're interested in the subject, about how and why the political left supports child abuse. And I just tracked the history in that Breitbart piece. You can find it probably pretty easily, and I'll post it on my Telegram just for viewers, so you can hunt it down because it's a good one. Why and how the political left in Britain. So you have NAMBLA over here. In England, it was called PI, the Pedophile Information Exchange. And
Yeah.
people who
That's
were
the boy love. Is that what that is? The NAMBLA?
well,
Is that what
here
you
it's
said?
the National Man Boy Love Association, I think, in NAMBLA,
Yeah.
and in Britain it was called PI.
Okay.
Maybe it still is. And there were people who were on the front benches of the Labour Party. So I'm talking like the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who were on the board of PI in the 70s and 80s. And just after the sexual revolution, when anything was permissible, right?
Right.
And these people were literally pushing the line that it's just an alternative sexuality. And it's coming round again. They're
Yes.
trying it again. They didn't win it that time. They had to. They got shrieked into submission. But they might this time if they can persuade the whole of the country, every establishment, institution, every magazine, to pretend that a man in a dress is a woman, like a mentally ill man in a dress is a woman.
Right.
If Glamour magazine is making a mentally ill man in a dress, it's Woman of the Year. And we're all supposed to nod along and pretend like this is normal, and even act in some way like these people are sort of heroes, because they're on the front cover of magazines, so they are aspirational lifestyle
Stunning
goals,
and
right?
brave. Yeah.
Indeed. We're almost supposed to act like these people are better than straight people in some way. They've suffered. They're survivors. They have this thing, and they're sort of like raise up, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if we can do all of that, and if we can live in a country where the LA Times, even the LA Times reported, I think it was less than a week ago, about a boy who was in state care who was given estrogen to calm him down because he was too boisterous, right? Because boys are being judged by female behavior standards,
Right.
And he's like injected, this prepubescent boy injected with estrogen, so he wouldn't be so difficult to manage, rather than somebody asking like, what happened to this kid to make him a mess and how can we help him? When we live in that world, when we live in a world where, sociopathic Fruit Loop fuck up moms are taking their kids to watch drag queens and clapping along because the moms just always wanted a gay friend, and when kids are having puberty blockers to delay,
right, at like 6 years
all the
old.
all the stuff your audience knows
Yeah.
about. Well, is it such a leap?
No, it's not.
And indeed, they were already trying this, because Salon was posting stuff by
like
a guy called
2014?
Todd Nickerson, saying he was a virtuous pedophile because he was
Right.
attracted to children, but he didn't act on it. And then when they decided to make up all that bullshit about me, they silently deleted his pieces from their site so that people couldn't go back and say, but hang on a minute, so it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all manufactured. It's all crap. It's all bullshit. And it's all just designed to tear at the foundations of Western civilization, because it's all Marxism. It's all Marxism derived. And this is just a cultural, social Marxism versus the economic Marxism, which has failed everywhere. This is the thing about Marxism. So Marxism, communism work. Communism does work. Marxism works brilliantly, and it has worked brilliantly everywhere in culture. It just doesn't work economically, because you need capitalism to fuel all the crazy.
Right.
So
the Marxist takeover is nearly complete.
Right. But what's the what are their two targets? Well, I'll tell you, it's very simple. It's the church and the nuclear family, and it always has been. And what was the religious right trying to protect in the 80s and 90s? The church and the nuclear family.
Right.
And that's it. This is the core of what I say when I mean like they were always right. They were always right about everything. So the church is basically gone now. What's remaining? The nuclear family. How do you break up the nuclear family? Divorce children from their parents. So you encourage the parents to hate the kids and vice versa. You give the kids a variety of alienating and othering maladies, diseases, conditions, disorders, the trans epidemic and all that. So you turn that generation into something utterly repulsive and repugnant to their own parents. And then finally, ultimately, you turn children into sex objects, which breaks the sacred bond of innocence and trust between that covenant between adults and children. You break it by saying that adults have a right in some way to look at children as sex objects, whether or not they act on it. That for me is the final like satanic. That's the final satanic hand. That's his flush that he chucks down on the table at the end. And at that point, you either take your chips and go home, or you shoot him in the head. And I want to shoot him in the head.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best synopsis of the last 30 years that I've ever heard. So,
well, I did mention I'm very smart.
You mentioned, you mentioned smart and talented. I think that was
And you're
and
forgetting
handsome.
handsome. You're forgetting handsome when not bitten by
usually
insects. Look, it's not going. Look, it's not going down.
It's not getting bigger.
Would you look at that motherfucking thing? Would you look at that, please?
Here,
By the way, there are OG Milo fans who will remember a live stream called "A Spider Bit Me," which look at this. Look at that. This is how much I did not want to cancel on you today. That I would never in a million. Anyway, OG Milo fans will remember a stream I did called "A Spider Bit Me," where I was like freaking out in my flat in London. This would have been like 2014, I think, or something, because I got bitten. And I was alone at home, and it was like 3 a.m. or something crazy. So America was awake and Britain wasn't. So I was like, do I go to the hospital? Am I going to die? So I just switched on. Google Hangouts, went live, said, anybody call in. Whoever wants to call in, just call in. I think I might die. I just had people like help me diagnose the bite, just to make sure I wasn't going to die. But it ended up turning into like this 8-hour live stream, and it's original Milo lore for those who are into their history. So it's right back there in the history books.
Well, that was back when YouTube was still fun, and
wasn't
all that stuff.
YouTube great?
Yeah,
when we did that long stream, and I did a stream with Lawrence Southern, who unfortunately went evil later. But for freedom of tweets, do you remember that, where all the personalities were there? I did so many. I used to the thing I loved more than anything, the thing I loved the most was just calling all the people I knew that liked me and I liked them with any kind of internet presence, and just saying, right, Saturday, 1 p.m., yeah? Right. And just doing these long 8-12-hour things that just like,
you could say anything. You could say anything, and you weren't worried about like
the
Daily Mail coming after you or.
But what's amazing about it is the people who are still with me, who love me, who like buy all my everything. Those are the things they love the most. Like back in the early days, like the ride up, you know. Yeah. Everybody I've ever met who's like, people remember those things with such affection. But it's almost impossible to do them now, because you could like stage it on D Live, but nobody would fucking see it. And next week I could be cancelled, and it won't be in the archive anymore, so people can't watch it. People can't discover it serendipitously in 6 months, like so many people have with those great streams from back in the day. It's sad. It's so sad. It is so sad how they've strangled all of the like just free and easy joy out of the internet.
You know why the GOP is so awful, and why politics are boring now, because they kicked all the interesting people off.
I'm totally kidding. I'm joking. I'm totally kidding.
They kicked off all of the interesting people, the Milos and the Alex Joneses, and like there's nobody left.
Can you imagine being on Twitter now? Can you imagine?
I do miss it, because my favorite.
You're not gonna get any fucking sympathy from me. Let me tell you.
I know.
No sympathy coming from me. No, you should have left ages ago. You should have left when I got kicked off. Everybody should have, and then it actually would have stopped. So I'm now in a situation where
so just blame me for it. Fine.
I'm not talking to you personally, but I'm just saying, like, there was no solidarity, there was no movement, everybody was so self-interested and hoping that the crocodile ate them last, that now you're all getting picked off one by one. And honestly, truthfully, I'm just sitting back and saying, good, you all fucking deserve it. And I applaud every time it happens. Stefan Molyneux lost his Twitter, lost his YouTube. Good. Like, fuck all of you, because there was a moment in time when we could have come together, and we could have beaten them. We could have intimidated them into even giving me my Twitter account back. When they banned me at the RNC, there was a 3-month window where everything could have been different. But people were self-interested and selfish, and also they were stupid, because they thought, well, with him out the way, and he's like, this, now I shine. Well, they do. Betrays a fundamental misunderstanding both of culture and of economics, because in actual fact, excuse me, sorry. Oh shit. Just give me a second. I don't want to lose you. Oh, there we go. Because in actual fact, when you're creating like emerging new culture, it's not even like rising tide carries all boats. You're creating this limitless, massive market where there's not just room for everybody, but everybody's success helps everybody else,
Yeah.
because it wasn't a saturated market. In 2015-16, we were all exploding. We hadn't even come close to discovering the limits of our power, the furthest reaches of our demographic, whatever. I'm the only one who became like a sort of international cultural like figure. I can't walk down a capital city in any country in the world without people asking for selfies.
Right.
And when you're in that kind of position, you're never gonna like go to bed hungry, right? But now there's just no chance. There's no hope. I mean, the Groypers, the Fuentes, all the rest of it, they're fucked. They're never going to be allowed to get anything near as big as I was. I mean, they're all like, they go crazy when he gets 16,000 people watching his live stream. I'm like, add a 0 and we'll talk.
Right.
It's just there was a moment when we could have saved all this, but I think it's gone now. I think it's gone, and it's just so sad because it was
in my
fun.
defense,
It was fun. I'm not talking to or about you.
I know.
I really am not, and I didn't mean to suggest. I didn't mean to
No,
suggest that was coming for you.
I was just gonna
really a general expression of disappointment about how, while the left can move as one, we
the right
did not.
can't do it at all.
And we really, really fucked ourselves with that, because if everybody had said this will not stand, we are not coming back until you reinstate this person who did nothing wrong, they would have buckled, because they frequently do. All it takes is for you to just say no. But it was a real shame. I mean, I'm fine, because I was at a level where, like, if I really had to, I could live off the royalties from my book for the rest of my life. Like, I'm good, but I feel, not for myself, and the reason I keep going on about it is not because I'm like, bitter about the past or anything. I feel sad about it because I have a nice life, but I feel sad about it for the people who come now, because I'm watching like the Groyper movement, and I desperately want them to just nudge back in the direction of thinking about religion rather than too much of the race stuff. I don't want them to just put it down that hole, but I just feel for them, because they're fucked. Not a single one of them will ever be able to pay rent from expressing opinions on the internet like we could, Not a single one of them. It'll never happen. Not a single one of them will ever be able to buy a car or an engagement ring or a house, having a career like this online. It'll never happen for them. It's completely impossible. And the internet, is so boring now. It's so dull, especially because everybody's just fucking parroting of the things we were doing a decade ago. I can't stand to make a cup of coffee the same way twice. I especially can't stand to give a speech. I can't. I don't even give the same speech twice when I can, because it's like something that's not recorded in a different venue. I could just give the same speech twice. It would burn the house down. I can't bear it. I can't stand it. I have to write, for my own sake, I have to write something new. And
that's something I loved about your speeches, by the way, was that they were all different.
Of course, then I would recycle. Thank you. I would recycle my favorite jokes, of course. Like any kind of like camp, slightly corny, slightly over the top performer. I always have my go-tos, but no, like everything was completely different, everything. And just because otherwise, what's the point? It's so fucking dull. It's boring. Otherwise, you're just a politician giving a stump speech for the 500th time. Like, who cares?
Right.
But it's just the lack of talent. I'm going off on a tangent now, but the lack of talent is a big problem. And I don't know whether people have just been scared off politics by watching what's happened to us, and being like, well, I have other skills, so I'm going to go do something else.
I know some talented people that are scared to continue.
Well, me too. And I also know talented people who are in the business, but keeping their head like above or treading water, I mean to say.
Right.
And not being as funny as they could be, and not being as provocative as they could be, not making as much of a splash as I know they could, because they just want to sort of cling on to the D-list status they have, and there's no point, because from the D-list you can never make money.
They'll eventually get to the D-list.
You can't survive on the D-list. You can't survive on the D-list,
They'll eventually get to the D-list. It comes after the C-list.
I've been on the A-list, and I've been on the Z-list, and I ward between the two, and I know how it works, and how life is, and how lovely this is, and how what a struggle that is, and blah blah blah. But there's a ceiling now beyond which new dissident right-wing personalities will never be able to ascend. And just, it breaks my heart, but I don't see any way around it, because as a group we just missed all the opportunities we had to, well, not me obviously, because I was the victim that you all didn't defend, but we just I'm patient zero in all this shit.
I know.
It's always me first. It makes me so sad for other people, because I see such great talent in it. I don't know if it's now possible to return to our previous, to save Western civilization and do all the things we want to do and beat the left and blah, blah, blah. I just don't know if it's possible now. I don't think the tools are available to us anymore for precisely that reason.
Well,
I'm always going to be good. I'm fine. Like, I'm going to have a happy life. I want to see the next generation take up the mantle, precisely so I actually can fully retire, because I don't want to be doing this forever. I'm getting old. But
I'm fully on board, by the way, with you saying, this is the bed that we've made, that we should lie in it, because I've been saying since you got banned that this is how it's going to go. If we don't do, as you said, if we don't organize and we don't stick together, they're going to pick us off one by one. I said, Alex Jones is next, and I said in January that Stefan Molyneux was next. He was on the chopping block. So, I guess technically I was on the chopping block before him by a week or so, but you were
at a similar level of annoy the left quota, I think, because he
I'm surprised I got as big as I did, actually. Like,
he's like a fucking weird. He's like a batty weirdo. He's a fucking weirdo. He's a very strange man, and he shat all over me in February after that hit job, which I will never forget. Which is why I am utterly emotionally indifferent to his suffering. Because that's the Christian thing to do, after all. Not really, but no, it's just like, I'm not like, I don't actively wish for his discomfort or suffering.
Well, it's fair.
Whatever.
I don't get into all the personal stuff, but
I will stand dispassionately and watch with a slight flicker of a smile as people get their just desserts.
Right.
And by the way, like, he shat all over me in 2017. And then when he realized I wasn't going to just slink away and die in a corner quietly, suddenly he started coming back saying, "Oh, will you be on my live stream? Can I be on your show?" And I'm just like, a couple of times I said yes. He's a fucking weirdo. Anyway, he threatens them because he has this sort of pseudo intellectual veneer, and because he has, he's very good at giving the impression of having a much bigger following than he does. And you, because of the pipeline that you were building between your creativity and the president's Twitter feed, was becoming a sort of feeder, right? You were one of the 2 or 3 things that he was pushing out on a regular basis, keeping an eye on and enjoying, and it was very, very, very effective.
And it made them very, very angry.
Right. So
I think I got 2 or 3 of the top moments for last year as far as like media outrage.
Right, but this is the rule, It's not about how offensive you are, the language you use, or how far right you are. It's about how successfully you annoy the other side, which means how effective you are. So you can tell who they're most afraid of by the order in which they banned people. And if somebody is still on Twitter today, it means the left is not afraid of them. And that's, they're not afraid of Mike Cernovich, who has many great virtues, but they're not afraid of him. They're not afraid of, did you want to join it? So Laura hasn't been the center of attention for an hour, so she's starting to just contribute from the kitchen. God, shut up, wife. Come on and say hello. One quick time. No, come on. One quick time. What? You can't just babble from the kitchen to get attention because you're mad I haven't been lavishing you with undivided devotion. Like, and they're also mad because whatever. Like, it's just buzzing in my ear, and then come over here. Come and say hello to the nice people. Come on. You look fine. You look nice. You just had your hair done. Come on. Come and say hello, and then I'm gonna send you off to bed. She needs her beauty sleep. She's got an early start. Come and say hello. Just come in. There we go. Look.
Hello.
There she is.
Good to see you.
What's up, Laura?
What I was saying is, I know he can't hear me.
Yeah.
But along with who the Twitter, also really, because a lot of the people
they go
who
for
are
the
like
comedians, the artists.
Well, no, but a lot of the people who still have their accounts are like grifter types who just copied all of like people like me and you and Gavin and Alex who are actually funny and original and
they're
creative.
kind of recycling the same jokes.
Yeah, and they copy and
the
they
taste
repost.
makers are gone.
Yeah.
That's true.
people who influence the culture. Now it's
you're
just,
right about that. Did you just brush your teeth?
Yeah.
You smell minty.
I know.
You want a good night kiss?
Sure.
All right, darling.
All right.
Sleep well. We're
Early voting begins next week, so I've been very busy, and I got to pull off an election victory because God knows if I don't get elected to Congress, nobody's going to do anything about tech censorship.
Somebody kill me! God. If I ever do manage to wean myself off the dick, I think we all know who's going to end up wifing me out, don't we? Oh, God, we're there already.
Right. I should have mentioned that in the text. That was the one thing you're not supposed to say.
What? Dick?
No, weaning yourself off the dick.
Oh, weaning myself off the dick. Well, I'm sorry. It just tumbled out my mouth. I was powerless to stop it. I'm sorry. And now you're going to slap me around the face with it for the rest of the show. Okay. All right.
Well, we've got
after that fucking stupid, pointless interruption from this. This has been a party political broadcast from crazy bitch over there. God, I hope she wins. Don't we all hope she wins? I hope she wins. Yeah, there we go.
I'll just say this since she can't hear me. I hope she wins because
I
can't imagine the text messages I'll get if she doesn't win.
Nobody else except you and me knows what that means. Excellent. Look, that's not a Laura we want in the world.
No. We want her in Congress, not all over my phone.
Yeah, try being me. You think you have it bad. I want her in the members only elevator on Capitol Hill wearing a body cam hidden in a brooch. I'm gonna dress her up like who's that old, what was she, Attorney General or Secretary of State? Madeleine Albright. Yeah. I'm gonna dress her up like Madeleine Albright with the lovely jeweled brooches, except in the center will be like a okay, girl. Except in the corner there will be in the center there will be a camera, and she'll be in the members only elevator. Like, you can just see the doors just closing on Ilhan Omar, and she'll be like, "Hold the elevator!" and then just as soon as the doors close, she's like, I can't even say it because I don't want to spoil it, but she told me anyway.
Well, she told you what she's going to say to Ilhan?
If you are, you know as well as I do that she is morbidly fascinated with a particular statistic about what is done to Somali women and whether or not the congresswoman for
Thanks, Laura.
Can you imagine being her campaign manager?
I can't actually imagine.
I know the woman. I've met her. She's amazing. She's the only other person
she would have to be.
For me.
She would. No,
honestly, she's a really extraordinary, brilliant. She's the woman who won Florida for Trump. Is Karen Giorno. This is why Laura's one of the reasons Laura's doing so well. In addition to her extraordinary and brilliant, unique personal qualities, she's actually somehow managed to assemble a really credible, legit, viable team as well. So it's another big check mark. Anyway, yes, what you heard from off camera was does she have a clitoris? I mean, isn't that the Congress we all want?
I think that's the Congress we deserve. That's for sure the Congress we deserve.
It's definitely the Congress we deserve. I don't know. You're such a fucking crazy cunt. Look, I have to tuck her into bed soon. I do, because otherwise she'll be up all night talking about Ilhan Omar's clip. So no, she got a bulldog. By the way, do you know what Laura's dog is called? Do you know that?
No, I don't.
It's called
I'm trying to think of. Is it something obvious?
Laura Loomer's dog is called Loomer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, she got this English bulldog, and they basically have the same personality. They don't respond to instructions. They don't follow commands. when you tell them something, they forget 5 minutes later. They do what the fuck they want. They piss on the furniture. And once they've got their teeth into something, they never, ever let it go. And I cannot handle 4 hours of discussion about the Ilhan Omar's genitals. What are we going to do before we wrap up? Do we have super chats? Do a Q&A?
I'll do.
Where are we in the proceedings?
You know what? You have been a trooper. With whatever is going on with your face right now.
Yeah. Hello.
It's just
hello. Look, I'll just give you another view of this. I will never look. I just want people to know I'm not lying. That is absolutely fucking. Don't I have nice eyelashes? Aren't they nice?
They are.
They're so long. They're gorgeous. Sorry. Sometimes I just look in the mirror to get lost.
Yeah.
No, look, I've never, ever allowed myself to be seen in public like this before, and I never will again. The cost of this was all those jokes about pretending not to know who you are. So look, I've come on despite being brutalized by a poisonous arachnid assailant. I have by a venomous 8-legged assailant. I'm here anyway because I'm a professional.
Well, and I allowed you to come on the show despite all of the personal attacks that you've waged at me about my weight.
Oh, the fat stuff. Yeah.
I do have some. I have some super chats. Somebody says, Matt, ask Milo, what does Matt Andrews mean to you? I don't
There's
know what that means.
Well, yeah, it's from there's a Roman expression called damnatio memoriae. It's what they did to people who were so despicable and appalling that they had to be scrubbed from history. So their names would be chipped off buildings, and they'd basically be written out of history because they were so terrible that they couldn't be acknowledged. This happened to Nero and Caligula, Domitian, some others. Matt Andrews is somebody who used to be in my Telegram chat,
okay.
which you should join, by the way, because it's like super fun. There's lots of lovely Trump moms in there and some little naughty hellraisers that we have to keep in line. Matt Andrews is merely a former member of my chat who is now damnatio memoriae. His name is he who will not be named. Next.
All right. Milo, are you going to sue Patreon?
I can't tell you anything.
Okay. Let me see.
So you can read into that whatever you want, but I can't tell you anything.
That's fine. Milo, quickly, what's your take on the Chinese or the China tensions? Tensions between.
Tensions?
Yeah.
It sounds like a takeaway. Doesn't it? It's like, hello, China tension. Like, can I have a number 1, number 13 with the brown rice?
What kind you want?
You can't even do accents anymore because now it's enough to get you cancelled. I mean, it's the evil empire of our generation.
My take is generally China bad. China bad.
Yeah.
I mean, what more are you gonna say?
Russia, mixed feelings.
Yeah.
China, a horror show.
Yeah.
The only good thing they do in China is the Uyghur camps because and they're generous, sweet, free beer and bacon. On pain of death, but whatever. No, it's nice, it's lovely. No, I'm joking, obviously. Although I have to work really, really hard to muster up sympathy for Muslims
people
in
that want
camps,
to destroy you.
Well, given what they do when they have power, everywhere else in the world, I have to work hard to summon up my reserves of like Christian mercy and compassion, and I do have some. So I didn't mean that. It was just a joke, but is in fact an example of what we all know, which is, of course, that Chinese people aren't real and don't have souls.
like gingers?
Just a meme. It's a meme that means to be turned into a sheet of glass. No, gingers have actually. That's a shame. Gingers have a little bit too much soul, actually, a little bit too much. No, I mean, I just after we've nuked Mecca, which is basically my entire foreign policy. then I think, just the major Chinese cities, and I think it'll basically be all right.
All right, we got one from Sean, and he says, "Is Milo planning on helping Trump get reelected? If so, what?"
No.
No.
I said I was going to campaign against him and campaign for his opponent if he did not pardon Roger Stone. And he didn't pardon him, but he did give a commutation, which is good enough. Trump has not done enough to earn me actively campaigning for him. But I do think that he should be the next president, and I hope that he is. And I won't be giving speeches in support of him, but I certainly will be giving speeches in support of Trump candidates. Certainly, Laura Loomer's #1 fan and cheerleader, and various other people as well. I don't feel the urge to go out and put my life in danger for Donald Trump, because I don't think he's earned it over the last 4 or 5 years. And sorry, that's going to upset some people, but I just don't.
That'll upset some people, but it doesn't matter. I don't care.
It's just how I feel.
It's your opinion, and you know what? I think we both agree that Donald Trump is the only candidate that can win.
I strongly encourage you to vote for him.
Yeah.
I hope you do. I want him to be president for another term, but I just don't even know if he wants to be president for another term. I don't think he does. But the alternative is way worse. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like secretly thinking, I'm not like betraying my principles or whatever. It's just that I don't personally look at what happens to people who go out of their way to support Donald Trump. Look at what has happened to Flynn, to my dear friend Roger Stone. Look at the insane trumped up charges for anyone who'd ever met Donald Trump as a result of the Mueller investigation. Defending Donald Trump is a very dangerous thing to do, and it would only be worth it if Donald Trump was the kind of person that repaid loyalty, and historically he has not been that person. Roger Stone is the first instance that I've ever seen of Donald Trump actually repaying someone's loyalty, and he had to be absolutely forced to do it by unrelenting months-long pressure from everyone, from Tucker, literally from everyone that we could get our hands on, talk to, like just constant bombardment of phone calls that was made clear to him that it would never, ever, ever, ever stop until he did this. So there was there's like 20, 30 of us who were just, on this. And it was made clear to him that unless you fucking do the right thing here, unless you do this, not only are you going to lose a huge slice of your most ferocious supporters, some of whom you've kind of like lost enthusiasm from already anyway. But if you don't do this, we're never, ever going to stop. And eventually it worked. But I think if there hadn't been for that unremitting pressure, I don't think he'd have done it. And everybody else that's gone out on a limb for Donald Trump has had their life completely destroyed. Do I want to go through that all over again? No, sorry. I don't see the case for it personally.
So somebody, all right. San Francisco. I'm guessing that's the town of San Francisco says, why did Milo fold to the left? So apparently they don't like you in San Francisco.
Why did I fold to the left?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I've got
so much more fucking right wing in the last 5 years. Are you out of your mind? Are you completely insane?
Somebody paid $5 for that. That's how insane they are.
I am so much more rabidly socially conservative. I hate my homosexuality so much more than 5 years ago. Like, what the fuck is up with you? Next.
And so Matt Andrews keeps on sending me money, but I'm not gonna say his super chat. I'm gonna ignore him. I was nice and quirky and charming and satirical court jester. I'm a monster now. Look at me. You've heard this conversation. I'm mean. I'm a mean, bitter old queen who hates queens. Look, that is completely insane and demonstrates, I think, complete ignorance of everything I've said and written in the last 4 years. Well, so even trolls have money, so
their moms or
their moms have money. I don't know.
Or they made it on. Well, no, I mean, look, anybody can start on OnlyFans. Even if Jacob Wohl can be on OnlyFans, you can be on OnlyFans. So it's just as money comes and goes very easily.
Well, I think that's all the super chats, but you know what?
Splendid.
You have been amazing. Thank you for coming on.
All right. really good value for money. Definitely worth what you paid for me tonight.
Thanks for insulting me for an hour and a half.
It's how I show affection.
That's
all right. It's how I'm communicating to you that you're okay. What I'm doing is rather than going through like 6 months of like tiptoeing around each other and figuring out if we can like be cool, I'm just like trying to fast track the process by hazing you, so I know if you can like handle being friends with me, and you can. So
I knew immediately from your first text that we would get along.
Yeah, me too. I actually, because there's people that you are in friendships with, and you know that you're always going to be the one that has to be funny, and you always get the ha 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 texts back, and then you know when someone's like actually funny when they skip that shit and come back with a rejoinder, and it becomes like a dance. And yeah, no, when I first started texting you, I was like, yeah, he's cool. Yeah, he's fat, but he's cool. I don't know who the fuck I'm talking about. I weigh 220 right now. I've been eating and drinking my way through retirement. But I had to just start on a new diet and workout regime. So I'm 3 days in. I'm in fact going.
Well, that spider bite is gonna do wonders for you.
It's 1 a.m. and I am still going down to the treadmill, having already done an hour and a half today. So I'm being a good boy. Give me a couple of months, I'll be back in touring shape. But no, I thank you for having me, and this has been a very, very enjoyable conversation, mostly because I've been doing the talking. And just kidding. I don't have an off button, like that. This is what.
You know what the value of this conversation was? People are constantly telling me that I'm too thin-skinned, and that I yell at people too.
You're not thin-skinned.
This is proof positive. There is no thin skin whatsoever here.
Hell no. There's nothing worse than being on the receiving end of me. I'm horrible.
I thought it was fun.
Nobody else is going to come on your show and like laugh about fat jokes they made about you and double down on them and then like call you. What was it? I want you to be the best carpet shampooer you can be.
And then you called me a carpet shampooer.
The Da Vinci of tired cliches. It's amazing. I mean, who the fuck else is going to come on your own show and do that?
Nobody, I guarantee you nobody.
Because nobody loves you like I do. So no, look, I can tell you, as somebody with a lifetime's worth of experience trying to get under people's skin and normally succeeding, that you have been effortlessly graceful under fire, and I didn't see any evidence of a thin skin at all. I thought you were incredibly gracious and fun, and if I could give you some tips on the show and on you, I would. No, I'm just kidding. Just joking. You're doing fine, love. You're fine. You're good. You're all right.
Thank you.
Keep it up. Keep going.
All right, man.
I think you've really got something here. I've had a really, really good time, and I'm so glad to have made friends in this way with so many people watching. So now I can't pretend I don't know you.
Thank God. Finally.
It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing to do. I can't remember what show it is. There's a TV show, isn't there? When somebody says I like to put people off by pretending that I don't know their real name and I call them the wrong name at the end of the conversation. Isn't that right, Susan? And then the woman's name's called Jane or something. It's one of my favorite things to do, is like pretend that I don't know who people are I've known for years. It's just I have a very stupid sense of humor, and like anyway,
it's all right. Should we do you hang up? No, you hang up. No, you hang up.
Oh yeah, that's super cute because people will like crop that afterwards and it'll be like really adorable.
Yeah, no.
So let's do it. Oh, okay.
You can do it if you want. I don't care.
No, because you're gonna have the last laugh. I'm gonna be like, no, you hang up, and then you're just gonna go. Boo. I'm not falling for that one, you bastard. But well, I'll end the show as I began.
All right.
Slightly more glamorous. With that great swollen pustule on my face. This is how people want to see me, how people think of me. and how really I am when I'm not being attacked by arachnids. Was an assailant. No one's ever laid a hand on me. No Antifa protester. No resist fascism. No one's ever laid a hand on me, but I'm bitten to buggery every time I come to Florida by a variety of fucking tiny winged things. And oh God. The only conclusion I can draw from this is I'm delicious. But I knew that already. I didn't need to get bitten in the face by a spider to know. This has been great. And for all of the extraordinarily, I would say, both concise and insightful, enjoyable to listen to, kind of like potted historical summaries and explanations of cultural phenomena that I have offered up this evening, off the cuff, spontaneously, ad lib.
I have provided none of those.
No, you haven't. But I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, you're welcome. You're welcome for me.
Well, thank you. and I will see you the next time that you come here to insult me.
Well, perhaps if you're in New York sometime, please accept this standing open invitation to come on my Friday night thing and do your best to make me feel uncomfortable, which you can always do by referring to my weight.
Just my presence will be uncomfortable, I'm sure.
Well, it's okay. We've got bug spray for that, but no, I just mean you can come on and you can make me squirm in my chair by talking about how I used to be famous and how much fatter I am than 2017. There we go. I gave it to you. They're my two triggers.
All right, man.
God bless you. Thank you so much,
us.
sweetheart. Good night. Bye-bye.
So that was Mr. Milo. So now that I'm by myself again, I'll do the boring we're done with the show part here. Thank you guys for watching. You can watch replays on CloudHub, YouTube, Periscope, DLive, Twitch, all those things. You can watch replays there. This will be up as a podcast tomorrow on Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud. As always, you can always watch live on CloudHub/CarpeDonktum. That will always be up. I'm never going to get kicked off of that platform. So we went kind of long today, so I'm going to keep this short, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.
Welcome to Carpe's Corner. So happy that you're here. So take a seat, have a tea, or grab yourself a beer. Here at Carpe's Corner, we'll learn about our lives. And in between, you might decide to exercise your rights. It's Carpe's Corner. Carpe's Corner. Don't forget reviews. Comment, like, and subscribe is all you gotta do. Here at Carpe's Corner.